Hello everyone, it's Mikael and today I'm gonna present our recent scientific contribution to NEXTA workshop of ICST 2022. The title of our paper is Choosing a Test Automation Framework for Programmable Logic Controllers in CODESYS Development Environment. Let's start by a brief personal information about me. It's Mikael Ebrahimi Salari, 30 years old. I'm a PhD student in computer science at Division of Networked Embedded Systems of Mälardalen University in Sweden. I'm a member of VeriDevOps EU project. I hold the Masters of Science certificate in IT Engineering Computer Networks, and I have a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering Software. Let's have a look on the introduction. Test automation is the process of automating software testing tasks such as a test script development, test execution, and requirements verification using an automation test framework. Choosing the right test automation tool receives significant attention from both academia and industry in the recent years. So selecting the right test automation tool is a non-trivial task for many practitioners. Motivated by the gaps of addressing the problem of choosing the right test automation tool, we developed four different research questions as follows. The first research question is, what are the reported test automation frameworks for CODESYS in the gray literature? The second one is, what are the reported features that should be considered when choosing a test automation framework for CODESYS? The third research question is about how do different test automation frameworks for CODESYS compare in terms of different features? And the final research questions that we developed in this research is how do different test automation frameworks for CODESYS compare in terms of their applicability to an industrial use case? First of all, I want to make it clear that why we chose CODESYS across all the ideas that we have out there for developing PLC programs. It happened actually because of three different main reasons. The first reason is that it is free to use and it is very popular in industry. The second reason is that CODESYS is a device manufacturer independent IDE, and the final reason, which is very important, is that CODESYS supports all PLC programming languages of IEC 61131.3 standard, including function block diagram, ST, ladder, IL, and SFC. You can also find a screenshot of the CODESYS IDE in this slide. In this slide, we want to take a look at the methodology that we use in this paper. As you can see in the figure 2, this hybrid methodology starts by CODESYS IDE ecosystem on the top left part of the picture. Then we apply some kind of grade literature review to discover the available most discussed test automation frameworks of CODESYS. Then we apply a literature review in step 2 to just discover the test automation framework's most important features. In step 3, we will use an industrial validation to detect the important features from industrial point of view. Then we will conduct our comparison study between the discovered test automation frameworks, and on step 4 we have the actually test automation frameworks selection. When we selected the test automation frameworks based on our comparison study, we will have some kind of industrial case study that is provided to us by a big automation company of Sweden, and finally we have the test automation frameworks evaluation. So the main methods that are being used in our research are grade literature review, GLR, and also industrial case study. Why we choose GLR? It is because the GLR will reflect the practitioner's point of view and it will exclude any kind of academic papers. It is inspired by guidelines used by Raulmo et al. It was the reference paper that we used for actually using this kind of method in our paper. And it will lead to creating a pool of objects for us, and the contents of pool of objects should be screened and analyzed based on some categories and some criteria, and also the pool of sources is available online on GitHub and it is accessible for public. As you can see in table 1, you can see the GLR strings that we used in this paper. It is CODESYS, test and testing, automation, automated, automatic, some kind of synonyms, and so on. Let's have a look on the considered object properties for the objects that we have in the pool of objects. As you can see in table 2, we have some kind of general properties for the objects that we have there, like title, link, and extracted framework. We also categorize the type of the object, whether it is a documentation, whether it is a tutorial, description, discussion, or other types of objects. We also have some kind of categorization for the literature type, whether it is gray or formal, and in our case, all of them, they are gray. And for the demographic info, we have some kind of information like year, author, and author's organization. And in the table 3, you can see the selection criteria that we considered for the objects that we have there. And it relates to author's credibility, which is related to Alexa rank and referral site of that link. And also we considered CODESYS verification feature and also whether it supports the latest version of CODESYS, which is version 3 or not. Let's continue talking about the methodology that we use. In the section of discovery and validation of features, we discovered most important industry-reported features while choosing a test automation framework based on 3 different sources of extraction, including literature review, industry, and documentation of the tools. The discovered features were validated with input from a group of engineers in a large automation company in Sweden. And regarding the industrial case study that we use in our research, we have to mention that to evaluate the applicability of the discovered test automation framework for CODESYS in a real-world scenario, we used an exploratory case study using an industrial system. And it's worth mentioning that this case study is provided to us by a big automation company in Sweden. In this slide, we want to take a look at the results that we achieved for research question 1 and research question 2. For research question 1, we want to discover the test automation frameworks for CODESYS ID. Based on the results that we achieved using our gray literature study, we found out that CODESYS Test Manager and CO Unit are the most discussed test automation frameworks for CODESYS IDE. As you can see in the pie chart, more than 62% of the results are pointing out at CODESYS Test Manager as the most discussed one, and 15% of the results are actually pointing out at CO unit, and TC unit has the 15% of the results as well. And 8% of the results are just pointing out at the other discovered test automation tools. Since CO unit is the developed version of TC unit, and it is also verified by CODESYS company, we just considered CO unit and test manager in this study. Regarding the research question 2, which is related to test automation frameworks features, I have to say that based on 3 sources of information that we used, including 5 different academic related works, industrial input, and official documentation of the tools, we discovered 29 industry reported essential features that should be considered when choosing a test automation framework for PLCs. 15 out of these 29 discovered features were considered important by a group of software engineers in a huge industrial company in Sweden. Regarding the results that we achieved for research question number 2, which was related to test automation framework features, you can see 2 different tables here, actually including table 4 and table 5. In table 4, we tried to show you the industry validated features, And in the next table, you can see the other extracted framework features that are not categorized as important features by the industry. And as you can see here, we just categorize the discovered features in 5 different categories, including company constraints, maturity, testing functionalities, tool flexibility, and usability. And for every feature, we provide the reader with the true definition that we extracted from every source of extraction, and you can find it in our paper. Let's talk about the research question 3 results, which is related to test automation frameworks. Based on the 15 industry validated features, we conducted a comparison study, and the results show that CODESYS Test Manager is more mature, has several advantages over CO unit, including user support, record and playback features, and easy test suite extension. However, CO unit as an open source counterpart also provides testers with many key features used during PLC testing. Here you can see the concrete results of our comparison study based on the industry verified features between Test Manager and CO unit as the discovered test automation tools of CODESYS. You can see, for example, regarding the cost, Test Manager has the mixture option, which means that it is some kind of tool that needs commercial license, but it is free for using in academia. On the other hand, we have the CO unit, which is completely free and open source. About the stage of development, for instance, we can see that Test Manager is very more mature because 8 versions released so far, but CO unit just developed 2 different versions, and we categorize it as partial. For example, regarding the test suite support, you can see Test Manager supports .tsc and .xml file. However, CO unit also supports this feature, but just for .xml files. And regarding some other important features, you can see, for example, for script language, Test Manager supports Python and all IEC6 1131 supporting languages, but CO unit just supports the structured text. Finally, you can see for the research question 4, we had an industrial case study, and we had 2 different test scenarios. We developed 10 test cases per each tool. We discovered some new features, including installation and configuration, ease of use, testable objects, and test assertion timeouts. You can see 2 different pictures. One is a snapshot actually of the POU under test, before and after execution of the test script in CODESYS Test Manager in the top, and on the bottom you can see a test suite that is developed in the CO unit. Regarding the research question 4 and the newly detected features that I mentioned, you can see regarding the installation configuration, CODESYS Test Manager is the winner because it can be easily installed and configured as a package for CODESYS. And also about the ease of use, CODESYS Manager is the winner as well because it has a really good GUI and a lot of predefined test actions that you can use. Regarding testable objects, as you can see here, CODESYS Test Manager supports 3 different main testable objects, including application libraries and IEC communications. However, the CO unit just supports the application. And regarding the test assertion timeouts, obviously CODESYS Test Manager supports this feature, and you can just have different custom test assertion or test execution timeouts, but it is not something that can be achieved using CO unit, unfortunately. Finally, I want to briefly talk about the conclusions and future work for this paper. As you can see here, this paper addresses the practical problem of choosing the right test automation tool for PLC programs in CODESYS IDE, but in the future research we plan to conduct a more comprehensive evaluation of CODESYS Test Manager when used in an industrial context. And we want to also investigate how to connect such a test automation framework for automated testing of timer and stateful blocks in PLC. Here you can see the references and acknowledgement. It was my honor to have this presentation in this interesting venue, and thank you very much for your attention, and I'm available for any possible questions.